Hey everyone! So today's video is going to be a bit heavier, but it's super important. We need to talk about this 50-plus page legal declaration from Kiera Grace Madder, former member of the K-pop group VCHA, and her experience under JYP Entertainment. This isn't just a bad boss story or your usual trainee hardship tale. This is real, documented abuse. And I'm not saying that lightly. She filed this thing in court to try and get her contract nullified or reconsidered, and when you read it, it makes total sense why she'd want that. What she went through is heartbreaking, disturbing, and honestly infuriating. And I don't just want to go over what happened to her, though we will go over everything, but I also want to talk about what this means for the K-pop industry overall. Spoiler, this could be huge, or it could get ignored, like everything else. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. KG was 15 years old. 15. She signs a contract with JYP Entertainment, which is already a huge deal. But it's even worse when you consider she didn't fully understand what she was signing. According to her declaration, she thought the adults around her, her parents, the staff, were handling it and that it was all fine. Now here's where it gets sketchy. JYP hires a lawyer, Debbie White, to represent KG. But KG says she never even had a real conversation with this woman until after she quit JYP. Like, what? She had no real legal advice, no real explanation of the contract. She didn't understand the court process either. She thought a Zoom meeting her parents had was just a regular info session, not a legal proceeding to approve her contract. And this is a contract being approved by a court. For a minor, without the minor actually being present or understanding it. That's terrifying. And unfortunately, it's not unusual. K-pop companies have a long history of exploiting minors by locking them into contracts they don't understand. Remember TVXQ? They were locked into a 13-year contract, and the court later described it as basically a slave contract. We're still seeing echoes of that today. Now let's fast forward to her being in Korea, actually training with JYP. And this is where things get really upsetting. In September 2023, KG says she tore a tendon in her shoulder because her dance teacher made her repeat a move literally hundreds of times, with no rest and no water. It was so bad that she couldn't move without pain. Did they rush her to a hospital? Nope. She wasn't taken to get medical help until 2 days later. She got some injections, but wasn't told what they were. There's even a photo she included showing her at the hospital. Then in November, she injured her leg, got more injections. The doctor told her she needed to rest, but what did JYP say? Keep dancing. They literally told her to do full-out performances, even though her muscles were damaged. In December, it gets even worse. She ends up with internal bleeding in her hip from repeatedly performing a dance move on the floor. And still, no break. She had video screenshots, photos of her sleeping on the dance floor, injection sites, receipts, schedules, timestamps. It's all documented. Now let's talk about their schedule because the hours, insane. KG included so many screenshots of text messages, schedules, and convos with her teammates and staff. She was working over 60 hours a week. Every week. It wasn't just that the days were long, it was that the expectation was to stay late. Even when the schedule said they were done, they had to stay longer or else be seen as lazy or not committed enough. One of her teammates would even tell them when they could leave, not the staff. Because asking the staff made them annoyed. Like, that's the level of psychological control they were under. There's a message from another member that basically says, if you leave early, it makes everyone else look lazy, which puts pressure on the whole group. This is toxic workplace behavior, and these were teenagers, literal minors. And if that sounds familiar, that's because it is. There's so many stories out there. Idols collapsing on stage, missing meals, living on 3 hours of sleep. Even G-Dragon once admitted he would work 20-hour days during debut. How is that sustainable? It's not. Okay, now for the part that honestly made my blood boil. The diet culture. KG says JYP pressured them to eat only salads. And yeah, they said it was optional. But the girls knew if they didn't follow it, the staff would be disappointed. They couldn't even eat at their hotels. They were supposed to eat only what the company gave them. Then we get to the comments. One manager told them to lose weight or you'll regret how you look. Another flat out said, don't eat. These poor girls were weighed monthly. Not just weighed, but monitored. And one of them eventually developed an eating disorder. KG mentioned that she was scared to eat after 5 p.m. and had a full mental breakdown. The stress eventually led her to attempt suicide. This culture is toxic, and it's treated as normal. But it's not. The emotional manipulation is next level. KG said they weren't allowed to listen to non-JYP music in the building. They had to speak Korean, even if they didn't know it well. They were told not to ask for schedule changes. Not because it wasn't allowed, but because it would make staff upset. Then there's the thing about interviews. KG wasn't allowed to talk about her past experiences. But other members? They were bragging about being on The Voice and other shows. Why was she being censored? There was also a translator who messaged them privately saying that JYP might be withholding affection on purpose so they wouldn't get spoiled before debut. Like, what? That's emotional abuse. That's creating a system where these girls are constantly desperate for approval and afraid to mess up. And then we get into some creepy, almost dystopian territory, hidden surveillance. KG found out that JYP had a camera in the group home, in the kitchen and dining area. She didn't realize at first, but then a staff member made a comment about things that happened at night when no adults were around. Things that only someone watching a camera would know. Turns out they installed a Colsey's IQ panel that has a camera with live feed access. They could literally monitor the girls' every move, including what they ate, including what they talked about. There was a sticker in the pantry saying it was monitored too. And the girls even joked in their group chat not to talk near the mic. Like, this is terrifying. You can't relax, can't eat, can't exist without someone watching. All of this led to serious mental health consequences. KG said she felt like she lost her personality. She stopped feeling happy. She started missing school. She begged for shorter hours so she could rest. And she wasn't alone. Her teammates were saying the same. There are screenshots where she and another member talk about how they don't feel like themselves anymore, that they've lost their confidence, their identity. By May 2024, she was done. She told her staff and her group that she might leave, and that's when they all had a Zoom meeting to talk about possibly quitting together. But not everyone did. Some of the parents were too scared of the consequences, like legal fees and damages. So KG left, alone. And this is what happens. Even when idols try to escape, they feel trapped. Emotionally, financially, socially. The system is rigged against them. And finally, the financial side. This is what really shows how messed up this system is. KG was working constantly, doing everything they asked, and still, she ended up in debt. In massive debt. Her financial statements show she owed $378,000 in January. By April, it had ballooned to $504,000. For what? Training, housing, promotional costs, and no one explained it to her. No breakdown, no transparency. She was a minor, working full-time, and somehow she owed money to the company that exploited her. This is another classic K-pop thing. So many idols talk about not getting paid for years. Remember EXID? They were broke until one viral fan cam. Even BTS said they didn't make money early on. This is the system. This is the blueprint for how K-pop operates behind the scenes. We've had Chu, we've had 50/50, and now we have KG. 3 major documented public examples of idols speaking out about mistreatment. And what's happened? Barely anything. Fans argue, companies deny, the cycle continues. And to make it worse, a lot of people are treating this like drama, like gossip. They're using it to pit groups and companies against each other like it's some K-pop Hunger Games. That's not helping, that's distracting. This is about safety, about mental health, about protecting kids. Being an idol is hard. We all know that. But it shouldn't be traumatic. No dream is worth destroying someone's body, mind, or identity, and no company should be allowed to profit off of it. So yeah, this is what KG went through, and she had the bravery to document all of it, with evidence, with receipts, with dates, screenshots, texts, medical photos, everything. And it's not just about her. It's about every other trainee who's still stuck in this system and too scared to speak up. This case deserves attention, not because it's scandalous, but because it's real. And if we don't take it seriously, we're just allowing it to happen again. Thanks for sticking through this long video. Please share this. Talk about it. Keep the conversation going.